JKB back with another episode. Today on the show I'm reviewing Monster Hunter Rise. Thank you to Nintendo for the review copy. If you've ever had the urge to kill a giant monster and use its bones to create new weapons and then go back out into the world and hunt the rest of its family, this game's for you. It'd help me so much if you could subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, and turn on bell notifications. That way when I upload new videos you get notified. Thank you. At the beginning of the game you're introduced to a very detailed character creation system. This is where you'll be able to customize your character, and later into the game you're able to come back to this system and change certain aspects of your character. You'll also be designing your Palamute and Palico. This is the cat and dog characters that follow you around in the game and help you out. You can assign the cat to be defensive and attack or even heal you as the battles continue. And the Palamute is the dog you're able to ride around, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Overall, in terms of creating your team, I'm very happy with the customization they've introduced on the main hero. I would say it's a little bit more over the dog and cat character creation, but you're still able to customize them in certain ways, just not as much as your main character. But overall, it's a great system, and it makes me feel like I'm part of the world because I have a lot of choice. As for the story, it's as bare bones as you would expect out of a Monster Hunter game. You're introduced to a village that you'll need to protect from giant monsters, and that is about it. Of course, you'll get a little bit more of the story as you progress through the quests in the game. However, it never really amounts to anything special because that's not the important part of this game, and I can let that go. I also think not many people are going to be disappointed that there's no story in the game. It's what it is, and that's all it needs to be, and it's perfect in this regard. As for the main hub world in the game, it is spectacular to look at. The graphics in this game, which I will get into a little bit later, are unbelievable, and I can't believe Capcom pulled them off on the Nintendo Switch. In the hub world, you'll see everything from stores where you can buy new items. There's going to be traders where you're able to trade some of your items and goods. You have food shops, which are very important to the game. You should always eat a meal before you head into a battle. You can also visit your bedroom, which has a few customization options where you could take a photo in photo mode and put it on the wall, which is kind of cool. So you could take a photo of your cat and put it on the wall and stare at it. You also have the ability to change your character's look yet again from within your bedroom. You also will be visiting the training dojo for your companions in the hub world. This is going to let them level up. You leave them there and come back and pay some money for them to level up, and that's very important in case you want to switch them out. There's also a training area where you're able to take any of the weapons out and see if you want to use them. I'll get into the weapons in a second, but I had a little confusion at the beginning of the game because I wasn't sure how to switch my weapons out to test them out. Now, I figured out after a couple of minutes that you have to go to the item box, and you're actually carrying all of the items on you. So you go to the item box and switch to the weapon you want to try out. There's an item box just outside of the training area. So it's very important that you know this, because it took me a couple of minutes to figure that out. And last but not least, there is a forge where you're able to forge new weapons and upgrade your current weapons. This is very important to the game. It's part of the main gameplay loop, which I'll get into right now. As for the main gameplay loop, what you'll be doing in the game is very addictive. You'll be going from the hub world where you're able to really enhance your characters by eating different meals into a quest, which might have you going out and capturing or hunting a monster. Once you've taken down the monster, which I'll get into in a little bit, you're able to either kill it or trap it. When you trap it, you get a better chance at certain weapons. However, you're not able to carve them up, and that is a choice you'll have to make. After you've done this to the monsters, you go back to the hub world where you're able to forge new weapons from the parts you've collected off of the monster, or even upgrade your armor or create new armor based on the parts you have found. Then, guess what you do? You go back into a quest and hunt more monsters. Now let me get into the most important part of the game, and that is the weapons. There's 14 different weapons in the game that you're able to choose from and switch out, upgrade, and forge. Of course, you're able to do this at any point on the hub world itself. Now, let me get into the different types of weapons that you'll experience in the game, and I will say that each of these weapons changes the game in subtle ways all the way up to basically making it a different game in terms of its combat. You've got a greatsword, a longsword, a sword and shield, which obviously some of these will have shields, some will not. You've got dual blades, which are extremely quick. However, you need to get too close to the monster for my liking. You've got a lance, a gun lance, hammer, hunting horn, which seems to be ridiculously crazy. I don't even want to get into that right now. You've got a switch axe. You've also got an insect glaive. I don't even know how to say that. A light bow gun, a heavy bow gun, and a bow. Out of all of these, I'm currently using the light bow gun. This is a ranged attack weapon where you're able to switch out the different types of ammo and hunt the monsters that way. There's a ton of people that ask me on Twitter, by the way, follow me on Twitter, that way you can stay updated every single time I eat a Pop-Tart. They ask me, which weapon is the best weapon in the game? And to be honest, there is no best weapon. There's a certain amount of people that I believe use the greatsword and longsword, and suddenly all of a sudden the hunting horn is super popular, but I don't think there is a best weapon. It's all going to come down to the mechanics of each of the weapon and the animation time of each weapon. And what I mean by that is, once you've decided to swing a long sword, there's a certain amount of frames that you need to wait before it will make contact with the monster. Now, you've got to decide, do I use something that is slow, something that is fast, something that takes a long time to use, or something that takes no time at all to use, such as the light bow gun from a distance? Overall, in terms of the weapons, they're the same that you get out of all of the Monster Hunter games. However, I do think some of them have been balanced to a certain degree. I know that the insect glaive can be ridiculous in this game, causing you to flip around in the air. However, at the beginning of the game, I had no idea how to even use it. And like I said before, you start the game with the basic versions of all of these weapons. However, you can forge new versions based on the parts from the monsters you will slay in the game. So it gets ridiculous. And of course, you want to stay on top of this because the game does definitely get harder as you go. As for the quest, it's really split up into two versions. You've got the village quests where the villagers will ask you to do things for them. This is where you get sent into a map and do simple things like collect a bunch of berries and bring them back to the village, or even slay monsters and bring back the parts. Then, on top of all of this, you've got the hub quests, and this is the multiplayer that is absolutely insane. Not only does the multiplayer function in ways I never expected, the frame rate is unbelievable. This version of the game is something I never dreamed we would ever get on the Nintendo Switch. You're on a team of 4 players, including yourself, and you go into these hub missions expecting the frame rate to dip once you get to one of the monsters. However, the frame rate was so solid that my jaw actually hit the floor. I can't believe that the RE engine is running at this performance level on the Nintendo Switch. It is something to behold yourself, and the multiplayer is unbelievably fun. And this is where I can go into detail on how you hunt the monster itself. Now, in the other game, Monster Hunter World, you were able to track the monster by visually seeing on screen a tracking footstep system that would lead you to the monster. Now, on the map, they just basically show you where it is. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that, but it's fine. It works that way. You still will end up killing the monster and having to follow it as it runs away. But I do want to get into the detail of the monsters themselves, because online is where you'll learn how to play the game, not through the game itself, but from the other players. Now, it's very important to say that the online mode, once again, is running at the best I've ever seen it run. Now, there's no voice chat on the app itself or in the companion app on the iPhone or Android device that you may have. So you may want to team up with people that you're able to chat with in another way. I think having communication with your partners online is very important. Now, the game also translates from Japanese to English in real time, which is amazing. I mean, I've never seen this in a game before, where you're able to link up with somebody from Japan, and if they put in text in Japanese, it will come out in English for you, which is unbelievable. Now, like I said, the most important part of online is learning, and this is exactly where you're going to learn how to play this game. One of the negative aspects of Monster Hunter Rise is the learning curve, which most people are unable to get over because of the level of depth in the game. The game itself does not really hold your hand in terms of learning all of the different systems. So when you go online and find a legendary hunter from, let me just be honest, from Japan, and yeah, of course there's some in North America, but the people from Japan are absolutely insane at this game, and this is where you'll want to go to learn how to play it. And now for the most important part of the game, the monsters themselves. And I'm not going to really get into detail on the different types of monsters, but I will talk about what you will experience in this game when you get deeper into it. At the beginning of the game, you're introduced to the simple monsters, the ones that will not have special effects on them, such as resistance to fire or resistance to certain aspects like water. So as you get deeper into the game, you have to start to think about those things and also change your armor based on which monster you're going up against. So the level of detail it has in this game in terms of the RPG elements is ridiculous, and nobody that's a newcomer will be able to understand it on your first go. Now, in terms of the way these monsters act and behave, it is amazing. If not better than Monster Hunter World, it is amazing watching these animated creatures come at you. The level of fear that you have the first time if you're a newbie is ridiculous. The beginning here, you start out with simple monsters that you're able to take out after about 5 or 10 minutes. As you get deeper into the game and playing online, you start to realize that yes, there's levels to these monsters in terms of how you should attack them and why you should be switching from the side to maybe the tail or maybe to the head of the monster. And of course, I should just say, in case you didn't catch it, there's different parts of the monsters that are weaker based on the weapons that you're using. So you should always use a long sword on the tail of a monster. That way you can hack it off, or you can use a hammer on the head of a monster and crush its skull. The idea online is to focus in on what your strong point is. So if you're holding a hammer, you should be attacking the head. Your partners on the team should be attacking based on the weapons they have. Now, of course, I should also point out you can't really hit each other in multiplayer when you're swinging a long sword, around a monster and you have your teammates, but you're able to stagger them by hitting them. So it's very important that you pay attention to where you're standing when you're using your weapons, because you can throw the whole team off. So overall, in terms of the monster design, it is amazing in this. You have monsters that I believe are based on mythology out of Japan, and it is amazing to see them mash them together. So you'll see anything from a dinosaur-looking creature to a creature that might look like half a turtle, half a dinosaur, or a bird and a dragon mixed together, and it gets ridiculous. And you should know that all of these monsters have different tells. The tells are simple. I'll explain one here where you'll notice that he'll swing his tail in a certain way just before he does his massive damaging attack. This is very important to pay attention to, because that's how you will be knowing exactly when a special attack is coming at you. So the monsters have no filler whatsoever. Every single one of them stands out on their own, and some of my favorites are in this game, and my god, good luck on your first try. I hope you have a great team when you go online, and I hope you have some fun. Now, in terms of what's new in the game, one of the most amazing features they've introduced here I was a little afraid of when I first saw it, and that is the wire bugs. This is a new way to explore the world and traverse the environments. Now you're not going to be really running around a field as much as you did in World. You'll be exploring way up the side of mountains and caverns and caves. It is a blast to use the wire bugs, but not only to traverse the environments, but also to use during combat, which is ridiculous. Now, there's one amazing aspect to the game that they introduced here, and that is the ability to use the wire bugs or a special little spider that you'll find on the ground that helps you not just trap an enemy for a moment, but ride them. This means you can ride the monsters in the game. Once you're on one of these monsters, you have a few different abilities here. One being to attack other monsters, or you can actually jump off of them and send them towards a wall that will cause them major damage. So never before have you been able to control a monster. This is a huge aspect of the game now, and there's nothing like being online and seeing one of your friends just simply walk into frame on top of a monster and attacking the monster you're currently attacking. It is ridiculous. Another thing you could do with this is have the turf wars, which are back in the game, and this means you can have the two monsters fight each other by simply taking one over and sending it into the other, and it is ridiculous seeing this on screen, and you get a rush watching it happen. Now, I will say riding the monster is a little wonky. You actually have to hold a button to be able to walk, which kind of makes sense because it wants you to feel like they're gigantic, but it is a little awkward and it takes a little getting used to. What else is new in the game? You've got switch skill moves, which lets you switch out different skills on your weapons. So every weapon has 3 different slots, and each of those can have 2 different options. This lets you basically customize your weapons to an even further degree. And quests, I should point out, will unlock skills later into the game for switching up. The game also does feature a whole other game mode, which is a lot like tower defense. This is where you're sitting in a village area and monsters will come along and attack the village. You're able to set up weapons that will hold them back and work with your teammate to achieve victory. There's also amazing unlocks in this that are tied directly into it that you will not be able to use outside of it, such as a giant, basically, nuke that explodes everything on the screen. Now, I really enjoyed this tower defense mode, but it does feel kind of limited, and I hope that they build upon it in the future, but you'll still have a blast playing it online with your friends, and it's something you can easily sink 20 to 30 hours into. Now, let me talk about the Palamute. This is your new dog companion. You're able to ride him around the world, which is, blows my mind. You don't use stamina as you're using him, so this is a huge bonus to the game. You're able to also boost on top of him. This means you can get through the level much quicker. If you need to get to one section, you just hold down the left trigger button and you're running. And it is amazing using this. You're also able to jump while you're on your dog. And on top of it, there's even a drifting mode where you get this subtle burst of energy that will send you towards your target. It is amazing using these in the game. I should also point out another reason you want to use them and sit on top of them is because in battle, you normally have to sharpen your weapon and stand still. Now in this game, you're able to get onto your dog and sharpen your weapon as you're in motion. So that is amazing. Monster Hunter Rise is one of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch now. I can't believe the combat in this game is matched to World, if not even better, with the wire bug ability and the ability to ride your dog around during battle. This is the most visually stunning game I've seen on the Nintendo Switch, if not the best looking game I've seen on the Nintendo Switch. I could go on and on about this game for another 20 minutes and explain to you why you should be picking it up, but I decided I wanted to leave it on a little note here and say that I think a lot of people try to get into this series. However, like I said before, the learning curve is ridiculous, and learning all of the systems in this game will not take 2 hours, 3 hours. For a newbie like me, it took 20 to 40 hours before I even understood the main base game play of Monster Hunter World. Is it the same way in this game? Well, to a certain degree it's more streamlined, but yes, it is definitely a hard game to figure out. But in saying that, is it worth figuring out? Absolutely. The main gameplay loop in this game is so rewarding. The idea of upgrading your character's abilities and the weapons themselves is what's going to drive you to play this game. But I should also point out, if you have friends that have this game, there's nothing like experiencing this with people that you actually know. Now, it's amazing going online and playing with randoms, of course, but playing with people you know, this is crazy because some of the silliest things can happen in battle and you will fail a lot of the time. However, I didn't even go over everything in this game because I didn't want to make a 30-minute review. I wanted to give my initial thoughts of the game in this review itself, and I think I've done that. So, overall, I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. It is obviously a must-own for the Nintendo Switch, with a slight warning. If you don't know how to play the game, maybe consider watching some guides online before you get into it, but this is a game for everybody. I think everybody that plays video games should experience the rewarding effect that this game has, and doing it online with your friends is the best way to play it. As for the performance on the Nintendo Switch, it is the best running game at this level of depth I've ever seen. Visually speaking, like I have said numerous times now, it is stunning at times. The frame rate holds, and I mean holds solid throughout the whole experience. There's only going to be a few moments where you subtly notice it dipping at times, but never to any level that makes you feel like it is a disaster. It is one of the most impressive games on the Nintendo Switch. I can't believe how good it looks, and I can't believe we finally got a Monster Hunter game on the Switch that is this good. Go out, pick it up right away. I don't know what you're doing still sitting here. If you enjoyed my review and consider me to be somebody that you want to listen to, I appreciate that. So please subscribe, turn on the bell notifications. That way when I upload a new video, you will be notified. And I'll see you on the next episode of JKB.